All right, guys, Cub Swanson and Kron Gracie. This fight we talked about last week on the podcast, and I talked about it basically just talking about Kron Gracie ad nauseum. And look, sometimes your boy gets it wrong. I didn't necessarily say that Kron was going to win the fight. I did think he would. And I thought that because Kron Gracie is such a decorated grappler, and something I didn't even know that was highlighted on the telecast was that Kron and Cub have had a grappling match before. Kron being 16, Cub being 20, and Kron won. So leading into this fight, there was a lot of back and forth. It was kind of small and a little more chippy, but you did see a little back and forth between Cub and Kron during interviews and during different stuff that they were showing on TV, and I couldn't figure out exactly why that was. It was confusing to me because I had never really heard Kron kind of go back and forth in a verbal battle, and Cub is always one of the nicest guys in fighting right now. He's one of the nicest guys, like a SoCal guy, doesn't ever really get into the back and forth, even during fights. Well, during a bloodbath like his fight against Korean Superboy, he was every round coming out touching, smiling. So a super nice guy, but you could tell there was a chip on Cub's shoulder coming into this fight, and for good reason. Cub Swanson had lost a couple in a row. A lot of people, including myself, had kind of started to think, okay, maybe this is the decline of Cub Swanson after being at a high level for such a long period. And obviously, like I said, MMA is not really a longevity-driven sport. So as you continue to go forward in your career, you tend to start to deteriorate in some fashion, whether that's skill level, whether that's cardio, whether that's just the ability of the younger class and the people that have started this sport later coming in with new technique. Some of those things tend to be contributors to people's downfalls as they grow older in their career. But in this case, it wasn't. Cub Swanson came out and had a perfect game plan for Kron Gracie. And two things I saw from this fight that really stood out to me were Cub's footwork. It was reminiscent of a TJ Dillashaw, which I know they've trained together, and he trains with Bang Ludwig. So I saw a lot of TJ Dillashaw foot movement and head movement even, and just his setups and the way he was getting out of the pocket and staying away from being reached by Kron and just having Kron move. And another thing I saw was that Kron Gracie's stand-up ability is very lacking. And that's not to say that he can't stand up and fight with anybody. Kron Gracie walks in this room now and tries to fight me, he's going to piece me up. But against a high-level fighter like Cub and like the top 10 at featherweight, and let's be honest, guys, featherweight's a very deep division. I would only say maybe 155 and possibly the top end of 170 is a deeper class, but 145 is deep, and it's tough. There's a ton of guys there, 1 through 10, that can compete for that title. Now, I don't know about winning. Max Holloway's a beast, but anyway, you see Kron Gracie, and the entire fight, he is pushing forward, almost to the point where he is walking into punches from Cub. Cub is doing a good job of ripping the body. I mean, ripping the shots to the body. And if you've seen the Gracies before, they do that breathing technique where their hands are on their hips and they're sitting down and they're doing some sort of elaborated breathing technique. And I don't know if that contributes, but Kron didn't look like he got hurt by one body shot. And it was more just Cub, throwing like power, the most power behind his body shots, and Kron just walking forward. So for me, it was watching this fight, I gained a level of respect for Kron for being able to withstand the onslaught from Cub, because Cub threw a lot of punches, but guys, Kron Gracie threw and landed a lot of punches as well. This isn't a discount Cub. Cub put on a masterful performance, and did exactly what he wanted to do. Came in, neutralized any type of ground game from Kron, and pieced him up. But Kron also landed his own shots. And I think that was based off of the fact that he was willing to engage. He was willing to come forward and take a couple to give a couple. I don't know if that was the necessarily right strategy, but we did see Kron try to pull guard, and it didn't work. We saw him try to close the distance and get any sort of grappling exchange, and he couldn't quite get there. And I think this is where the difference in obviously just strictly combat grappling or strictly grappling outside of MMA is going to get into guys that just do that are going to get into trouble without having necessarily the same experience striking. And Cub, obviously with loads more MMA experience, understood that the one way that Kron, and I think we all understood this, but the one way that Kron is going to beat me is if he gets a hold of me early and gets me to the ground and finds a way to lock up a submission. Kron tried at a couple of different ventures, but for the most part, this was a stand-up battle. And while Kron held his own, you saw the deficiencies in his striking. You saw the ways that he can improve. He's only 31. He can improve. But what you saw more so from this fight, outside of Kron, was Cub Swanson's ability to continue to get better as his career is going forward. Now, he took some shots against Kron, but he needed this win, and he went out and got it against the guy, Kron Gracie, undefeated. A lot of pressure in this fight, a lot of hype behind Kron. Everybody thinking, Kron was the favorite in the fight, so a lot of people thinking Cub was going to lose, including myself. So for Cub to turn back the tide and say, look, I'm still here at featherweight, it's a huge win for him. But I can't get over the fact that Kron stood there and impressed me by giving shots, by landing. They weren't the most technical shots in the world, and it wasn't like he was reinventing the wheel. I don't think he threw maybe 2 or 3 kicks, but he stood there in the pocket with a guy like Cub Swanson, who was very dangerous, and landed a good amount of shots. That bodes well for a guy like Kron moving forward. I don't think his stock goes down at all. I think obviously he can improve in his stand-up. I think that for him to be more successful, he has to find a better variance on getting takedowns versus just the front leg kind of teep kick or leg stomp to get in for the grappling, which is, a Gracie classic, to kind of front leg stomp your way in until an opponent, throws and you can close that distance and grab. I think he needs to find more ways to secure that takedown. And I don't think, again, I'm not Nostradamus here. I think a lot of people know that. But I think for Kron, his stock only went up. Cub's stock only went up. And both these guys are going to be around in this division for a long time because featherweight is deep. Everyone there competes. And regardless if you win this fight, lose this fight, if you're Kron or Cub, I'm sure they'll see each other again. Or I'm sure Kron will make his way up, Cub will make his way up, and they'll fight big-time fighters. Like I said, no one's stock went down in this fight. Congratulations to Cub Swanson, an amazing win. And one message from the entire fight, the one message that sticks out, Cub Swanson is still here.